which we know that 2/3 of the driving drunk cases in North Carolina right now are tied to illegal.
I don't know that. I'd have to see the stats on
okay,
that.
we'll give you the facts on that. Then when you get it, would you
Yeah,
believe
but
it?
they're stopping cars with spray paint on them.
Hey,
They're profiling.
well, so what?
If you're stopping people in their car because they're brown and you suspect they might be illegal.
I've been hit twice. Look, I've been hit twice right here in Asheville by illegals. Twice.
So are you saying that Latinos can't drive? Is that your stereotype?
No, hey, they got off the donkey yesterday.
Yeah. How do you know that?
They just got off the donkey yesterday.
I think that I've been to Mexico. Have you been to Mexico? They got plenty of Toyotas down there. They got plenty of Fords. They got plenty of Dodges. They got plenty of Chevys.
To go to Mexico.
They can all drive just fine down there.
Let me jump in here real quick.
I heard they've got all the old Volkswagens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to have some of those.
And the Yugos.
Going back to what you just said, you know, I don't think illegals can drive just as well as anybody else once they're trained. But the problem of it is if
they can't read English.
Well, hold on. First of all, they don't have a license, so how do we know if they're trained?
They don't read English.
If they can read, hold on, Don. So, you know, those are the issues that, you know, if they can't understand the roads and the language, then when you're driving, you know, it makes it difficult to understand where you're going to turn and make sudden movements. And so I think it's where that applies. I don't think it's because they're a different skin color. No, you know.
Well, the two that hit me were drunk.
Do what now?
I'm not denying that you didn't get hit by two drunk people that are not legal. I'm not denying
the bottom line is there's a cultural situation there. Mm-hmm. There is a cultural situation.
There's a lot of white drunk rednecks driving around.
There's a cultural situation in Mexico. See, everything that I hear you saying is you're trying to justify having illegals here.
I'm not. I think there's an immigration problem. You haven't even listened to me, Don. You haven't even let me.
Well, go ahead and talk, because all you do is justify your position. That
you don't even know what my position is.
Well, say it.
The reason
let's hear it.
I had a problem with the show you had about the situation over in Boone, where 4 illegals were in a truck and they hit a teacher, or 5, and everybody died. And you were trying to make it out on that show. Isn't this terrible? If we had a better immigration policy or better enforcement, this never would have happened. And I don't disagree with that. That's not what I disagree with.
Right.
What I disagree with is getting on a public medium and making it sound like, even though you might not have meant it, that brown people can't drive.
No, I don't think
it sounds racist.
Well,
that's the problem.
No, you're racist.
That's the way it sounded.
But that's the way you took it.
That's the way a lot of people would take that.
And guess what? I'm not going to control how you take it. I don't intend to control how you take it, because that's a freedom you have.
Yeah. Well,
but at the same time, I have a freedom to say, number one, had the illegals been stopped, that wreck would have never occurred. Can you deny that?
I can't deny that.
All right.
I can't deny that teacher would be alive and wouldn't have been hit by a white redneck between now and then either. I can't deny that.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about 2/3 of the accidents in Buncombe County driving drunk in North Carolina involve illegal immigration.
Well,
that's what we're talking
about. You're trying to equate the increased drunk driving problem with the illegal immigration problem, and that's not the same problem. I'm trying to say that illegal immigration might very well be a problem, and it needs to be addressed, but address it legally rather than try to hype up people to be angry about your opinion about how drunk they all are culturally.
There's a guy in Winston-Salem. There's a guy here in Asheville owns a radio station in Asheville that's very hyped up about illegals.
Who is he? Who owns the
Brother
radio
Bob
station?
Powers.
I don't know.
And I'm on his radio station every morning, Monday morning at 9:30. He has a niece in Winston-Salem that was out on the front porch in Winston-Salem, because it's kind of hot down there, isn't it? And
when I lived in Winston, it was definitely hotter than up here.
Yeah,
but not as hot as Charleston.
She was out fixing her hair, and while she was fixing her hair, a gentleman came up and started talking to these two 15-year-old girls. Now, everybody out there knows why a gentleman would talk to two 15-year-old girls.
Is there only one reason that a gentleman would talk to two 15-year-old girls?
Well, he started talking to them about straight-up conversations. Well, he's probably trying to get a name. He could be doing that, but actually, in reality,
was he an INS agent? Were these two girls illegals?
What he was trying to do? No, what he was trying to do. See, you're making fun of everything I'm saying.
I'm not making fun.
You don't want to debate. Listen to the story, okay?
If you can't talk to me in a generous tone, then the fuck if I'm going to listen to you.
We got. I do not put up that kind of language.
You don't need to yell at me.
No, I don't put up that kind of language. And I don't put up with you and trying to intimidate somebody.
I'm not trying to intimidate you.
Oh, yes, you are. Everything I say, you come back with something. What about this? What about that? Well, guess what? You didn't hear the story. You want to hear the story?
Yeah, I'd like to hear the story. I just don't want to be pointed at and yelled at.
Well, you're going to be pointed at as long as I want to. I don't get in your personal space.
You're getting in my personal
Well,
space
I'm
by
giving you
pointing at me
you
and
perceive
raising.
it. I'm not across the middle of the table. That's where I say it ends right there, buddy.
There's more than that.
Now, you going to shut up and listen to me or not?
Are you going to speak to me in a
Are you
decent
gonna shut up and
tone?
listen to
Are
me
you
or
going
not?
to speak to me in a decent tone?
What
I'm
is a
asking-
decent tone? Oh, I can
That's
speak
a
in
decent
That's a
tone.
decent.
That's a decent
Have a
tone.
seat.
I'll have a-
I can
I'll-
understand
let's
you
get it
rationally if you talk to me in a
Will
decent tone.
you quit coming back at me every time I say this and listen to this tale? 'Cause
I'm gonna
I
listen
want
to the
your
whole
answer.
story.
Well, then shut up and listen to it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
And then do I get to say something at the end of it?
You can say anything you want to say at the end of it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Because I want to see what your answer is,
Go
sir.
ahead, go ahead.
I want to see what you're thinking.
I'm going to give it to you. Let me hear your story.
This gentleman came up and started talking to these two girls, created a conversation, okay? And about that time, a van pulled up with one black and one Mexican in it. And they hollered out about drugs. Where's the drug deal? Now, this ties into what Pendergraft said right in Asheville, and I had him on my TV show.
I didn't see that. What'd he say?
He said that he had found out that a lot of the Hispanics were hanging sheetrock of a daytime and selling dope out of the back of their truck of a night, okay? And they have undercut, and we had a man right here on their show that used to make $100,000 a year, and now he got down to $25,000 a year because they're undercutting him on price. Because if you're making money selling dope, you can hang sheetrock real cheap, okay?
You had a man on the show that was selling drugs and getting
No,
$100,000.
a man that was hanging sheetrock and making $100,000 a year.
Oh, right.
And so he's been put out of business by the Hispanics taking the trade. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows that it's
Right.
going to the building trade. They just won't talk about it,
Right.
see? Because it sounds like we're blaming the illegals for everything.
Right.
Bottom line is the two boys in the van pulled out an AK-47 and a shotgun and started shooting at the man that was talking to the girls. They ran into the house, and the little girl, 15 years old, had the back of her head blown off with an AK-47.
That's terrible.
The man cannot be charged because they can't find the gun. He is a Mexican from Philadelphia, just like the black dude in the van was from Philadelphia.
They know who the guy is and they can't charge
They
him?
got him caught. They can't charge him because they can't find the gun. And that's due to the law.
And they have witnesses that saw this guy step out of the van
You
and
heard
do
what I
this.
said. You heard what I said. And
Well, I
Bob,
thought the witness got his head blown off.
Bob, the other girl survived
Oh.
and went in the house.
Right.
But that's exactly what happened. And what the guys were doing were trying to kill this guy that was talking to the girls because there's a drug deal gone bad.
Right.
Now, there's case after case after case after case of people being killed by drunk drivers that are illegal immigrants. What can we do with that illegal immigrant?
Well,
He's not subject to our laws, is he?
yeah, he is. If you're an American,
No,
you're breaking
we
the
said
law and we
he's
catch
not an
you, you're-
American. That's it. He's not an American, son. He's not an American.
What do they
So
do when they find an illegal alien and arrest him? They can't do anything?
They basically, all they can do is send him back.
Well, then that's what they should do. Send him back.
They will tell you. Right now, the city police in Asheville will tell you they can't send them back because who's going to take them? The feds are overloaded. The INS service is overloaded. As a matter of fact, Judge Pendergraft has said in Stewart, Georgia, it'll only hold over around 2,000 illegal immigrants. He has put over 1,200 in there himself as one sheriff. Now we're going to have Henderson County cranking up their program next year. And when it happens and it cranks up, and Pendergraft said this, he said, the word was out. If you're illegal, he said the actual illegal Mexicans that are law-abiding are glad to have him doing this for one reason. Because
You
in
mean the
his-
legal Mexicans or the illegals?
the illegal Mexicans do not mind at all because he's
Right.
not out there arresting somebody because they don't speak English.
Right.
He's arresting them because they're drunk.
A lawbreaker.
They have broken another law, so that
Right.
gives them two laws, and that's his criteria that he's using. And what he said was, and this is very, very true, you check it with the Italians when they came over here, every time you have a group of people that a large bunch of immigrants, you have an element of crime
Of
that
course.
attacks on them and sucks them dry.
The mob did the same thing.
And it happened in New York
Right.
with the Italians.
Chicago,
And so this is
Irish.
exactly what's happening with the Hispanic illegals. They're being sucked on. They're being attacked by their own people.
I did not argue
And
that.
that's the same reason they're trying to leave down there, because right now in Mexico, it is so corrupt because money buys everything. Does that sound like America?
That
Does
sounds
sound
very
like,
familiar
Does
to
that
a lot
sound
of
like the way
things.
we're becoming? Because we don't care
It sounds
about
a lot
law
like-
and order. We only care about ourselves and what we want,
Right.
not what's good for people. And it's not good for people to have this massive influx of illegal immigrants. It's not good for people, in my opinion,
Right.
to reward them for violating the law.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
Cut and dried. We can talk all day long about how good they are. They're here to work, and there's
Well,
nice,
I'm not saying they're all
and we
good.
should
I'm
love them,
just saying.
and that's true. But bottom line is, this is a major problem. But my focus on this problem is right here in Buncombe, because I cannot impact Washington, D.C. I can't impact Raleigh except when I vote. That's the only way I have to impact it. So my goal is right here in Buncombe
To
County.
do what is your plan of attack
I want to
here?
see, first off, I want to see our sheriff implement the 287 program. Why? Because it is a federal program that does exist. It'll take him about 18 months to implement it from the time he applies.
Right.
Go ask him where he's at on it.
Well, back to what you said earlier about there were illegals here. You said that were glad when he made these arrests and did
That's
this.
in Mecklenburg County.
Oh, that's not here in Buncombe.
No, that's in Mecklenburg County, because what happened in Mecklenburg County when he started doing this and arresting the drunks and the wife beaters and the ones that's going around and raping kids and everything else,
Right.
the crime did drop.
Right.
But he has a problem.
But he wasn't using 287, right?
Yeah, he was using 287 because that's the only way you could hold them. Remember, your law enforcement officers cannot find out if they're illegal and cannot hold them unless he has somebody on his staff that's a certified INS agent. And that's what the training program's about. The
Right.
287 program lets you go become
Right.
an INS agent. And you can hold them then until they're transported to the federal.
So then in
system.
Mecklenburg, when he makes a bust, he uses a 287. Then what does he do?
All right, he will hold them until they are sent to the federal prison. And you'll get a load of them together and you'll go to the federal prison with them.
But they can be federally imprisoned if they're illegal, or they can only be sent back.
Oh, they can only be sent back, as far as I can understand it. Because see, all they're going to do is send them back. But that makes the federal government do it.
Right.
Now, the other thing that's happened as a result of his program, he has saved the citizens of Mecklenburg County $5 million,
Well, that's great.
because the federal government takes over the cost of incarceration once they're put in jail and been declared illegal.
Right.
So that's the key. That's the key to the 287 program. Now, why do I want our county to do it? Because it will address the problem here.
Right.
It will give us an out here. It will give us a way to start making a dent in that. It is a program that exists and can be done. And it doesn't take an act of Congress to do it, but you know what it takes? It
Right.
takes people like you and I saying we want it done.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes
That's
sense.
exactly what it's going to take. Now, here's the thing that I think that can happen. If we do that, and if the people in Madison County do it, the people in Haywood County do it, all of a sudden the federal government's going to say, ooh, crud, we only funded how many programs? 50. Now what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, they're screwed.
No, we've forced them to take a stand on what they passed.
I think they
See, I'm
just do
sick of-
lip service and not really do anything.
well,
That's what they always do.
Guess what?
What?
We need to force them from here to take that step, because you want to talk about lip service. Now that's something that we can both yell on.
But look what
Because
they're already doing.
Politicians give you lip service.
Yeah.
All they do is give you lip service. Right here in Asheville, we've
Right.
got city council that says, "Oh, we're progressive and we love people and we want to do this," but what did they do? You better be
They
Democrat.
stop gated communities. And
Yeah, they stop getting communities, and,
and then
they're
they
gonna tell them
don't
what to
allow
do.
part, and then
And
they
then
make
they
it
don't allow
partisan
this.
elections.
I mean, good Lord. I made a statement. Back when Taylor was running against Schuler, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. In the Democrat Party, I hate labels, but you've got the progressive element, okay?
Right.
And you got some good old Democrats
Right.
that are just Democrats because they've been Democrats all
All
their
their
life.
life,
They don't
right.
even know what the platform says. They don't even know how
Right.
what it says.
They know that's how you get elected in this county.
And so they register, or they've been told to register as a Democrat, because we had a guest on our show yesterday.
Work's done it.
R.L. Clark, that you had to be. Well, it works because people sell out for money. Now, bottom line,
Across party lines, they
hey,
do.
both parties.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, so in
They
the
do
Democrat
indeed.
Party, you got that element, and then you got the good old Democrats.
Right.
If the good old Democrats knew everything that was going on in Raleigh, they probably wouldn't be good old Democrats. Now, on the other side, you've got the middle, moderate of the road, moderate Republicans, okay,
Right.
that subscribe to Reagan's 12th commandment.
I don't know.
Everybody sings Reagan's praises, but I go by his 12th commandment, not his 11th. His 11th was don't criticize a fellow Republican. His 12th was that you and I, if we agree on 80%, can be friends.
Oh yeah.
That gives you 20%. to yell at me over and me 20% to yell at you over, okay?
Right, but I don't even feel like I need to yell at you. I mean, if I just
Well,
disagree with
I feel
something,
like
I'm not.
I do.
I'm open to being convinced that I'm wrong. I'm open to it.
Well, that's why I told you, though, every time I was trying to say something, you were coming back trying to pile something on top of something, and we were not communicating.
Well,
sir.
I agree, and I apologize for that to you here on
Apology
the air.
accepted.
I'm just saying that
Now,
you don't
imagine
know.
that.
I know.
Are you following this? Are you following
let's
this
just go
now?
on into more immigration issues. I think both of you are sorry, so let's keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying I'm not.
Now, he doesn't
Both
want to
of
say
you are
that.
sorry.
We'll really get after
Both
him.
of you are sorry, so
Yeah.
let's get going back to the
Oh,
topic.
they're
Let me-
sorry.
Let me. I got a solution to immigration. I want to throw it at you. I want to throw it at you, Don, and I think you may have heard me say it before. There's two ways of solving.
First and
Illegal
foremost,
immigration.
tomorrow at 2 o'clock, be over at AB Tech at
Yeah.
the.
I'll be out of town, but
Well,
You'll be out of town.
Film it and put it on the
Be
air.
over there at the rally, and Richard's going to film it.
Okay.
And it'll be
put
on
it
the
We'll
air.
put it on. But anyway, there's two solutions that I can know of for illegal immigration. Number
Right.
one is to enforce the laws that are currently on the book, or deportation. I don't see there's any other thing but that at this point.
Well, the Bush administration seems to think that they should create, and they've already made moves to do this because a lot of their buddies need the immigrant labor in California. There's a lot of jobs
Yes,
out
that's
there
right, and
that
that's-
isn't sheetrock, that's picking strawberries or whatever,
Yeah.
and they have a bunch of immigrants there doing it,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
they love that. And so those big time agribusiness
Yeah.
people, they're like, hey,
Those
Bush,
aren't farmers,
don't
those are
mix
business.
the immigrants.
That's
Let's
right.
make that
Those are
make a
business.
way
I
for
don't
them to
deny that.
become
Well,
legal.
that's called the
That-
guest worker program, which we've had for years, that they don't implement anymore. See, because
Right, but there's people out there that don't even want the guest worker program.
hey, there's people out there that don't want anything.
Yeah. I'm
Because-
just saying that, like, those jobs, I mean, I really don't know the demographics of California's people that want to pick strawberries, how many of them are white, how many are black, and how many of them are Mexicans, but I kind of get the feeling that a lot of agribusinesses in this country, I know I picked apples in Henderson County for 2 years when I first moved here, and we had a lot of immigrant labor. I don't know if they were legal or illegal. I wasn't the overseer. I was just working there.
Well, a bunch
but,
of them
you know,
were getting
they're floating around doing this migrant thing,
Bunch
and
of
people want it.
bunch of them are getting their driver's license from Madison County.
Here,
Well, you
And they
know,
were
that-
paying
let's put everything on
$450.
hold a second. We got Jonathan here, and he's got a solution. So let's hear what Jonathan's got to say real quick, because he just stepped in here real quick.
I don't know. My solution seems to aren't borders kind of arbitrary things anyway, and aren't we all one citizen of one world? And maybe if you want to keep track of who is, if they are doing if they're criminals or not, if they're hardworking, honest people or not, if we register people, go through the whatever
The process.
driver's licenses or whatever.
Mhm.
But it seems to me that we need to be much more conscientious of the fact that we're sharing one continent, that we are one people sharing one planet, and we're fighting over stupid little invisible, made-up, arbitrary lines. And the sooner we get past that,
Then
I
he's for
think-
NAFTA and he's for
I think
GAFTA.
solutions
Yeah.
will present
He's for NAFTA and
themselves.
GAFTA. Take him on.
Yeah.
But I think that's a
Make
good
Mexico
point. I
state.
think that's
How
a
about
good
that? We'll
point.
make Mexico the
I don't know
50th
about that.
state.
But the melting pot, you going back to the melting pot, I want to say this real quick, Don. The melting pot, yes, I believe the United States is a perfect melting pot.
Yeah.
No, it ain't
We-
melting, 'cause
but-
these folks don't want to melt.
Hold on. But,
Well, it takes
but,
time to melt.
Don,
It takes
here's the
time. I mean,
thing.
the-
Here's
the
the thing,
Italians
real
weren't
quick.
speaking
The
English
problem
right
about
away
melting pot, you got to pour them in easily. You can't just dump it in there and expect it to be melted.
Oh,
to
that
society.
means we
But
can't make
that's
20
that's
million,
what. Well, that's
citizens
yes,
one
we
time?
can't do that.
That's right.
We
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
do
agree.
that.
We can't
We
make
should
20
not do
million
that. I think
citizens
we
at one
agree with
time.
that. I think we agree with that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The United States can be a perfect melting pot.
But I
John
think
would agree with
that Don,
But we gotta
when
do
you,
it right.
when you focus on this very real problem of the criminal element in the illegal immigrants, the ones that
And
are getting the drugs.
that's not even been talked about. I mean, it was so funny that the Sheriff Penny.
Well, I can tell you why it's not being talked about is because they'll make it seem like, and I was doing this and still sort of wonder about it, is that you make it sound like they're all criminals. You got to be careful to distinguish between the ones that are hardworking that will come wash your windows when nobody else will, and the ones that are actually taking advantage of those people and other people in our society with the criminal activities.
Well, I
They're two
think we got to
different
end
sort
at
of
6
things.
o'clock, right?
Yeah, we did.
Well,
about 7
I think the
minutes.
reason that a lot of them are washing the windows that nobody else will wash is this reason.
What?
We had Fern Schubert on their show that we recorded for Monday and Tuesday night.
And who's she,
for the
Don?
next 2 weeks. Fern Schubert was a senator. She made a run for governor in North Carolina. Fern is definitely a radical in her own right, okay?
Mhm.
And she made this comment that she had just spoke down at a Chamber of Commerce next to Charlotte. And there was a young lady there who said she had started a business and she tried to operate her business legitimately and not use immigrant labor. And she had to shut her business down. because she had to pay FICA, she had to pay all this stuff.
Right.
And what we've got with the illegals is they're working for
It's a
cash.
labor pool.
They're working for cash under the table. Most of them get paid cash.
Right.
Right.
And they make good money, $10 to $12, $15 an hour. And the real problem is that when they go down to the Buncombe County Health Department, we can't ask if they're illegal or not. And we, the hardworking taxpayers that picked apples and paid their taxes, are subsidizing their health care. We're subsidizing the schools for them, because about 20% now of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system cannot speak English at all, and it's a burden on their schools.
But to get in a school system, they don't have to ascertain whether you're a citizen or not.
No!
No, that's the thing, our government lets us down.
No, I mean, they don't. They even, matter of fact, Fern
I
brought this
thought I
up.
had to give them my birth certificate to
Well,
go to
that's
public
because you're a
school.
citizen.
Yeah.
But if they're born in this country, they're a citizen.
But it doesn't make any difference.
Anybody
Oh, right,
See,
yeah,
and-
see, if they're born here, they are a
but
citizen,
see,
even if their
if-
parents were illegal.
Yeah, but
Right.
even you, as a citizen, had to give your birth certificate.
Right.
Now, another thing that's happened, this just happened down in Salisbury. They had some owners of a restaurant that a woman got E. coli and died in that restaurant. The reason she died was because they had killed a goat in the restaurant
Mhm.
and got E. coli into the water, into the tea.
Right.
And they can't determine who owns the restaurant because none of them speak English.
in the tea.
Well, I mean,
In the
that's.
tea.
We don't have E.
So don't
coli
kill
in
any
our.
goats
I
on
don't,
this
I
thing.
We don't
see
have
how
any
you could
goats
own a
or any-
business
I was
in
thinking about
America
getting a
and
goat.
not be traceable.
It's simple.
How?
They pick up ID.
You gotta pay taxes. If you have a business that's in a building on a city street in
You
America,
have a name. You have a name.
you gotta have
can
a
get
tax
taxpayer
ID number.
Well, you go get one.
You can
well,
get
then
a
they can
taxpayer.
trace that and say, you own the restaurant, your goat killing did this, you're responsible.
But they cannot find the owner. What happened is, I teach
Well,
down
then they
there-
should shut it down.
I teach down there on
Well,
Wednesday
it's
night.
too late.
And then one of the students brought this article in, because I make them do an oral every Wednesday night. And she
Right.
brought this article in because it was attractive to her, because they'd killed a goat in the restaurant.
Right.
And made her think about what was going on. Well, how many Hispanics are working right here in Asheville in restaurants
I don't know.
that are illegal?
I don't know.
I
would
don't
say
know,
there's-
you don't know, but there's a lot. Do they have to have a health card anymore to work in a restaurant?
No.
I can remember my mom used to work in the lunchroom. And
No, I think the health inspector does all restaurants, goes around to
They
every
inspect-
restaurant.
they inspect,
but
they don't
you
require
do not
the,
have to have a health
paperwork.
card.
What's a health card? Is that different from the thing on the wall that says 97?
Yes, you
It's
go down,
individual.
and take a blood analysis, and they check you for communicable diseases, TB, and all this good stuff.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think it is.
Absolutely.
Well, have they had it before?
Yeah.
Yes.
They've had it before
When did
they
they outlaw it?
discontinued. Oh.
Well, when somebody started bitching about it, I guess, because it's a violation of their rights.
When
because
somebody
guess what?
wanted to get cheap labor.
And when somebody wanted to smoke dope and not get caught doing it, because when I do a blood test, guess what I can determine?
Drugs in the blood.
Yes.
Right.
So it's
And
just
so-
Right, so it becomes
Well,
a
now,
right
if
to
you're going to
privacy
take the dope
issue.
smokers
Right.
out of the situation,
Yeah.
you're not going to find
Yeah.
anybody working in restaurants. You
Yeah.
may as well just
If
go
you
ahead and
take
close
the
them
dope
down. There ain't
smokers
going to be
out of
anybody
the
washing the
equation, you
dishes.
killed your
For
economy.
sure.
And
Again, I
it's
would
all
say-
over.
Now,
It's
Because I
all
know
over.
the majority of dishwashers in town, and they're all smoking a joint.
Here we are, back justified. It's all right for people to do dope. It's okay for people to do dope and be in charge of what can kill you, which is in a restaurant, and be over sanitation.
Well, smoking pot and killing a goat in a store unsanitarily aren't the same thing.
Right.
They're not.
You know, both of them are just wrong.
Oh no,
Well-
you got to be able to do anything you want to do. Now, remember
Well, right
that.
now, if we're gonna take the pot smokers
No,
out
I
of the
don't agree. I don't
situation,
agree with
if we're
that.
gonna take the pot smokers out of the situation right now, you may as well just close down all the restaurants in
Yeah, and I
town
say shut
right
down
now.
the ABC stores and let's make the whole country dry, because if you
There you
think that
go.
a person high is more dangerous than a drunk driving immigrant, you're wrong.
Way wrong.
Oh,
now,
I don't know about that.
Why are we trying to
Well, I do.
justify? Why are we trying to justify drunk driving or smoking dope?
I'm not. I think that drunk
They're
driving
both
should
wrong.
be illegal.
Both
I don't know.
wrong.
I just disagree about
There's nothing wrong with smoking pot.
smoking pot being any worse than drinking wild turkey.
You know, no matter what you say about those illegals, that one illegal person driving that killed the teacher along with his 4 riders.
Yeah, I think that's terrible.
The saddest thing about it is you got a wife and
I
their
think it's
families and
terrible.
everything's terrible. It doesn't matter whether it's brown or black, white, whatever. It was just wrong.
Yeah.
Should never happen. Shouldn't have been there.
But these
And our
terrible
government's
things
let us
happen.
down.
My father died when I was 5. It was wrong. It's terrible. What can I do about it? Nothing.
I don't know the
It
situation.
happens.
Yeah,
it
it
happens.
happens.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't bring them back. Is my point. There's a grief that's just going to happen.
But you can join hands with me and help put pressure on our sheriff to do the 287G program right here in Buncombe
I
County.
think that's a great idea. I'm not
If
against
we
that
don't-
idea,
if
and
we
I'm
don't-
not saying we don't have an immigrant problem. I'm saying that, like, part of the issue should be these business owners that are taking advantage of this labor pool
Absolutely.
and using this labor illegally so they can cut corners and not pay taxes on them and not pay their social
problem with
security.
that.
That
Absolutely.
stuff has to be
I have no
addressed too,
problem with
because you're making a place for them to want to sneak
Absolutely.
in
I
and
have no
work.
problem with that.
Absolutely.
Well, what can we do about that?
You have to find
Exactly.
the employers. Get to
No.
the employers
What
and
you
get
have
to
to
the
do-
renters.
Because
The
I just did
law's
a piece
already
down at the
there.
Smithfield Ham Factory
I seen
down
it.
there
I watched
on
it.
Now, and I went down there and they had that's like 1/3 of those people. That's the biggest hog killing factory in the world.
Yes.
36,000 hogs a day.
Yeah.
And 1/3 of their workers are immigrants. Now a lot of them are legal, but some of them are illegal.
Yeah.
Now the Bush team with that ICE team, they went down in there and screwed with them, and they got all, whoa, now we're going to have to fire all these people because we've been busted by the Bush squad trying to crack down on immigration. And when they did this, the rest of
Why
the
do you call
legitimate,
that the Bush squad?
because Bush implemented this
But
this
that's the
thing.
federal law that's
haven't
been
you-
in
haven't
place
you
for
just been
years.
saying we should enforce the laws that we have?
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't have done that. I'm saying this is what happened. All the immigrant workers there, because these were their brothers and sisters, they said, that's fine, we'll walk off the line and shut the factory down.
Okay.
So they've
That's
got
not right.
so many immigrants working there
That's
that
good.
felt like they were being screwed with, that their buddies, their brothers had been allowed in there and allowed to work and kill those hogs, and then suddenly, arbitrarily, Bush decide, or whoever's in the federal driver's
federal
seat
law,
says,
federal law.
we're going to bust these folks in Colorado, we're going to bust these folks in North Carolina, we're going to make examples of them, these big
Can-
places, and
so
then
did
Let me
did
add a little
did-
something on top of this. No, let me add something on top of this. I've got to add this on top of what he's talking about.
go ahead.
We ain't got but a minute or two.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
No, relax.
Smithfield.
Relax, right.
Huge.
Breathe.
It is
can't jump in.
debated and discussed.
Face 'em now.
Smithfield gave a grant to the state of North Carolina of like $3 to $4 million
Uh-huh.
to study hog waste. Remember when they had the big flood? and
Yeah, the
everybody
big problem, yeah.
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 Well, they gave them $3 to $4 million to come up with a method that would let them keep on doing what they're doing.
You wanna write
Right.
this, wanna pass
No, I
notes?
saw it, remember, I wanna write down what he
So
So,
they have been
said. The factory now.
there is
Sounds like
corruption at all levels in that, and they
Yeah, I
paid
think
that money
that's
to
you.
North Carolina.
right.
And so North Carolina is a Democrat-controlled state, been Democrat-controlled for 145 years.
Right.
So it's not
Hello?
an issue of Bush or Democrat, it's
Yes.
the issue of enforcing the laws we have.
Yes.
Right.
And that, I think, is something that we can agree on too. And so
Well,
we
go ahead,
need,
what's up?
what you can do on this situation about not arresting employers is start contacting your local state legislatures so they make it an issue.
Right.
And if we do that, it'll happen.
Real quick, if those legal immigrants
Right.
are wanting to leave or
No,
boycott-
they want to work there. That's good money compared to what they're
What's the
getting out of
difference?
NAFTA.
That's what I'm saying.
place.
But I thought you said a minute ago that the illegals, since they got them out
Should
of
be
there,
able to go
now the
24.
legal
Well, they
ones
didn't
are
even
mad.
get them out. That they were coming in to get them out, and they walked off the line, and they said, "Oh, let's get a what was that program called? Where
Boycott.
they
Should be able
no,
to.
the
boycott.
program where you can legalize
Besides
I
what
don't
the
you-
right to work
coming out
program. What was
head
back to
burn
work? No, what was it called? You were saying it a minute
Right
ago.
to
Oh,
work.
right to work.
Yeah, they have-
Yeah.
I don't know.
Has
But
the
real
Not the
quick,
right to work.
So
That
are you,
sounds
are
like
you
what
saying
they
if the
are.
legal
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
are you saying if the legal ones were trying to shut the plant down, if they took out
The
the illegal
legal ones felt like all of a sudden their brethren or whatever
Yeah,
you want
they're-
to call it,
yeah.
who had been working illegally, were just getting nixed left and right because suddenly they were like, oh, well, I guess we better play by the rules now that we're being looked at
So
by the
are-
government.
So what were the
And
legal
the
ones gonna
legals
do?
were like,
A few minutes.
well, you haven't even given them time to figure out if they qualify for
Yeah.
this work status or whatever. You've just decided to quickly and blanketly hatch them.
So the legal